Hello, everyone. Welcome to Next Big Future. I'm Brian Wong. I write to nextbigfuture.com, the website, and I have my guest, Randy Kirk, who has his own YouTube channel, wrote books on Elon Musk, several books on Elon Musk, which I wrote a few chapters with him on. And now he's putting out multiple YouTube videos every day covering all the developments in business, in the markets, as well as everything happening with Tesla. So welcome, Randy.
Hey, Brian, as always, great to be with you.
Okay. So I'm going to try and quickly go over a few slides that go over my thesis about unlimited batteries and unlimited energy.
And if I don't understand it, I will be interrupting.
That's right. That'd be great. Okay. So let me just pop it in here. Okay. So unlimited batteries, EV storage. So this is CATL's little thing that they had a presentation in 2021 talking about sodium-ion batteries. So the sodium-ion battery itself is just saying that, Na, the symbol for sodium, and then how they're going to do that. They also have the condensed CATL battery, 500 watt-hours per kilogram, different chemistry, but, they have the range. So you have the, and then, here's some stuff we're comparing LFP, the iron batteries, with the nickel batteries. So LFP at 160 watt-hours per kilogram, nickel at 250 watt-hours per kilogram. This is a bit older slides from Jordan Giesecke. I think the LFPs are not 180, and nickels is moving up from 250.
Okay.
And then the total weight of batteries and that kind of stuff. So, critical component, of course, of all EVs is the battery pack. So the CATL batteries, the first generation sodium ion cells are at $77 per kilowatt hour. And the volume production could drop that to $40 or even below $40 per kilowatt hour.
So, when does that start? When does that $77 offer happening?
That starts like next month or the month after from CATL. Yeah, so they've got the factory, going. Q4 is when they go to mass production on it. They're already at lower volume production, so that kind of like serial production, maybe only a gigawatt hour per quarter or something like that, and they're going to mass production. So but it's the same equipment that they use for the other stuff.
Do we know what CATL is charging for their iron batteries now?
It's in the range of $80 per kilowatt hour for the cell. For the pack, it's probably at, 120. Okay. So it's in that range, but the exact pricing for which particular person is not clear. Okay. But I think Jordan Giesecke estimated 123 for the pack. I have that in the next slide actually, but
okay. Yeah.
Right. But so ballpark it is that they will soon get over the $77 per kilowatt hour phase to the next generation, probably within a year or two, and come down to the $40 per kilowatt hour.
Got it.
And then they have the $8 per kilowatt hour LFP batteries, which if you mix them, we talked about that before, you have like one blade of sodium ion, one blade of lithium, you can get to a $60 per kilowatt hour overall pack.
I see. Okay.
But there's all kinds of like scientific reasons about how they don't alloy with aluminum, lowers cost, lowers weight, and they have a 2022 patent which they can get up to 200 watt-hours per kilogram, which is kind of close to or actually above the current mass-produced lithium ion batteries.
I see.
So here's the chart that goes over that. So 160 watt-hour per kilogram now from CATL. Other people have worse sodium ion batteries, but CATL, the biggest one, has 160, 3,000 cycles. Gen 2 should have 200 watt-hours per kilogram, 3,000, and that lower price of $40. Yeah. And then you have the various kinds of LFPs, 160 for the stuff a bit older, 180, 200. So depending on whose product you're looking at, you have this range of energy densities. And then we have the new M3P manganese batteries where they add in more manganese, but similar to the lithium phosphate batteries of the iron ones. And those have 15 to 30% more energy density for roughly the same price. And so, and then the Goshen version coming out next year, which they announced this year, coming out next year, should have higher cycle life. So basically, you should get manganese batteries that are very similar to iron batteries without compromise at the same price, with up to 30% more energy density. Again, comparable to what nickel's at now. So as those things scale up, they will push the nickel stuff out of the way. Although you have the whole thing increasing. So nickel was 100% everything a few years ago, and now the lithium iron and taken half the market or more because they grew at this faster rate. And these manganese batteries and the sodium batteries all use the same equipment, other than some supply chain stuff to make the sodium and stuff like that, minor differences. But the pack, the cell, very similar stuff. So you'll be able to incorporate all these things and get to huge scale.
And these sodium, and the sodium batteries will use no lithium.
Right. They'll use just sodium, no lithium. So 5% of a lithium battery is lithium. You're going to swap that out with sodium. Sodium weighs 3 times as much. You'll probably like 15% or whatever by mass.
I see.
The sodium battery.
Okay.
Right. And then there's in terms of where this is going to 2030. So you have the CATL condensed battery at 500, which is like double your average 255 watt hour per kilogram nickel battery. And then there's a 711 watt hour kilogram thing that was in the lab, which uses funky anodes and cathodes and does a bunch of stuff for a pouch battery. But then certain people saying that the super lithium battery will be 1,000 watt hours per kilogram in 2030, and even get to 1,500 watt hours per kilogram before you even go to something that's air breathing, the sucking air out, or do something else. Before you go really crazy on the technology, this thing. So it's and these things which are the condensed battery or the lab battery, is just showing that the headroom on the nickel is higher. I haven't gone into the headroom of the of the lithium ion or the sodium, right? But they're going to be plenty good to be better than this, right? And cheaper. For me, the most interesting thing is how many terawatt hours and what's the pack price for the mega pack and for the car.
Sure. Yeah.
So here I talked about the pack price. So nickel, in the middle of this thing, we got the nickel 2023, 82 kilowatt hours. So that's your longer range Model Y or a short range Model S, something that in the range of the $12,000 pack cost. If I have a 60 kilowatt hour one, from Model 3, it might be $9,060. And then the LFP at $7,500 for a 60 kilowatt hour pack. Your base model, Model 3, be $7,560. So then you can get to, if you use the Goshen and you can, get some of the weight out, you can probably get to 7,500, but with the 300 miles range. But the LFP is 270, so a comparable one might be 50 kilowatt hours, $6,600. So the energy density stuff improving is driving the cost of the pack down. The volume production is driving the cost of the pack down. This is just like next year, you could see these $6,000, $5,000 packs.
Wow.
And in rare, not fully scaled up form. And then you can get to a Gen 2 sodium one at sub $3,000 for a 240 mile range vehicle at a $47 per kilowatt hour pack level. And that is not the floor, right? Because these things can scale up more than that. Both the iron and the LP and the nickel, everything can go to half of these prices within like 2-3 years. Here is Wood Mackenzie analyzing the material cost. So $67 for a current nickel battery, $24 for the LFP, and then you have the different sodium ion versions. CATL has, their version is $4 of materials in this version 1 battery.
Wow.
Right. So the version 2 at 40, they can, if you, say double or triple that material cost, you're at $8 to $12 per kilowatt hour battery, right? So, batteries can get 10 times cheaper than they are now.
Wow.
And especially with that sodium stuff, which is, there's some limit of, 6 terawatt hours, based on lithium supplies. Sodium does not have that limitation. You can have 100 times, 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times more if you use salt in the ocean or something like that, to do this stuff. So, the stuff is like, the components, like nitrogen, carbon, iron, and salt, right?
Yeah.
So it's like dirt cheap, super abundant. So the whole master plan 3 is assured with these batteries and super cheap for it.
So, we know that these are not small companies. These are very large, significant companies that are making these claims that they're not in the lab, they're already in production. So we're not talking about sci-fi future flying cars. We're talking about something that is been reported by CATL, been reported by these other companies as in production, ready to go next year or even this year. But then Gen 2, Gen 3 coming down to these ridiculously low prices. But ultimately, what I'm hearing you saying is that even whether it's $5,000 a pack or $4,000 a pack or $6,000 a pack, it'll be way less than currently. And there's unlimited supply easily. Now that was the other part. Is it easy to mine the sodium? I mean, you've got the water, you can pull salt out of the water, but there's a desalinization process that some people think is expensive. Elon says it's not. If you use solar, and you get the combination benefit, I guess, of getting pure water out of the ocean at the same time you're creating the sodium. But are there other ways that you can get the sodium? I mean, the sodium that you don't need the desalinization to do.
So the the cheapest way to get the sodium, and the mineral sodium, is with soda ash. So there's 47 billion tons of it in Wyoming, sitting on some grain.
Just in Wyoming.
In Wyoming, yeah, it's a Green River. I think it's a basin of something or other. I could probably look at the picture of it, but basically it's just like lying around in some like dried up lake bed, right? A dried up lake bed. You got like 3 yards thick, like 10 feet of the stuff just kind of like lying there. So you just like take your shovels, get your big thing, just scoop it up. It's just sitting there like dried up salt. It's just sitting there, right? So then it's like I said, 47 billion tons, just as much of you want to sitting there, which people didn't care about before. It's kind of like, I got a bunch of salt over there. Like, who cares?
Yeah, there's nothing's ever going to grow there.
Right. Nothing's ever going to grow there. Right.
So there's no restriction, not going to be a horrible time getting EPA clearance or getting the purity by going through all kinds of refining processes. Or, I mean, do they have any of those issues getting a lot of this ash into production?
No.
No.
It's like, either some kind of restriction on a salt mine. Like, no. We have salt mines and we do that. Oh, I could, dry salt out of the ocean, but we don't because, there's like a bunch of it already nature dried up for us.
Got it.
So it's just sitting there. Right. And, we've used it for other purposes before, making table salt or something like that, so it's there is already a market, and it's again all proven.
Right. Gotcha.
And again, using the same equipment. So this is why CATL, the biggest battery company in the world, says we love sodium ion and we're scaling up a monster factory, is because I can take all the equipment I make for the existing factory and just make some modifications in one section, but then everything else the same. So all the stuff, iron, nickel, sodium, pretty much all the same equipment. It's why it was so fast to scale. And then the iron stuff scaled up like 2 or 3 times faster, like doubling and tripling the stuff, because it was just that bit easier to work with. They could just do it. So the various, like Wood Mackenzie is saying, 40 gigawatt hours for this, and then only 100 gigawatt hours if it's successful, by 2030, it's like, I say that's a bunch of crap. I think we're going to hit a terawatt hour, by 2030 with the sodium, because of the fact, the equipment's all the same. It's just cheaper. I think the growth rate's going to be good. It's just, the everything about it. I don't see what the showstopper is. Same equipment, same factories.
Yeah.
Just a different product thing. Sodium is like, how is it more difficult to work with than iron phosphate? I don't get it. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's something else there. But CATL is making some big multi-billion-dollar bets. So
yeah. I don't think they're thinking about it. I think that they thought it through. I'm just guessing.
Right.
Now, what do you think Tesla will do? Will Tesla also get into the sodium ion? Will they use some of the new lines that they're putting in Reno to possibly do a sodium ion battery as well? Because why not?
Right. So BYD and Goshen and CATL, the big China car guys, are going to sodium pretty fast. Clearly, Tesla has some delays going to the 4680s, but the cans can put in iron phosphate in them, and they can put in sodium. So I think they will do that, but it's probably going to be a couple of years later, because one, they have to get the first stuff with the nickel up to volume production, which I hope happens next year,
right,
to the 100 gigawatt per whatever level, and beyond.
Right.
And then it would take some time to get the iron and then the sodium in there. But I would see both chemistries kind of going at the same time. LFP is coming off patents that make it more restricted in North America, which is kind of interesting, because the original stuff was invented in North America, but then China jumped all over it and pushed it fast. So I'm thinking 2 or 3 years behind. But the fact that Tesla will have 4680s at scale for nickel, and then we'll get them for iron, and then we'll get them for that, means that the China players have to be reasonable and honest with Tesla, because, hey, if you're unreasonable, I will make my own.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the main benefit of it.
So, Brian, you're all about next big future. And so right now we're talking about it in terms of just the chemistries and in terms of the dollars per unit and all of that kind of thing. But what about, it seems to me that this makes, as much as it's going to impact cars, and that's kind of the number one thing that you and I concentrate on, is the Tesla automobile and the other automobiles out there. And so this potentially puts the car into a range where anybody, almost anybody in the world will be able to buy one, and where the robotaxis will be so cheap to manufacture that the 50 cent a mile or 25 cent a mile, idea for robotaxis becomes realistic. Those things seem, I guess, obvious to you and me. I don't know if they seem obvious to everybody else, but it makes me think the battery in your house, the distributed energy thing, becomes absolutely around the corner.
Yeah. The whole master plan 3 of electrification of all houses, all factories, that if I'm making 40 terawatt hours of sodium batteries per year, right? You could massively get as many mega packs, as many Powerwalls, all the energy distribution that you want. The other thing on the long-term side is that for the solar part of it, if you get your Tesla bots working and get them to install solar, that would take out the labor cost of solar, which could drop the solar prices in half or more, because the $1 per watt, whatever the prices are for solar, only 10% of that is a solar cell. So there's costs from taking out the processes and doing that there.
Sure.
So the 2030s, with batteries that are 10 times cheaper, and with solar that is another,
Cheaper.
3 times cheaper, something like that, means that solar battery combination, the whole master plan 3 goes way faster, and our world will be far better from that. Everyone having solar and batteries and cheap but super reliable EV, which is 3 times cheaper than what the your previous gasoline car was, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to, go ahead.
Yeah. So, but I'm just thinking, really super practically, people talk about a $9,000 Powerwall or a $12,000 Powerwall. No, I'm not in. Talking about a $2,000 Powerwall, not even, I don't even have to think about it for a minute.
Right. Right.
I just put one in, it's probably going to cost more for the electrician to install it than it is for me to buy it at that point.
That's right. That's right. And the fact that you can do all kinds of time shifting on it.
Yes.
So it make the grid more reliable.
Yes.
And if you have solar, like I have solar now, like I'm, instead of paying PG&E $400, $600 per month, I've, free months, and then there's the virtual power plant stuff where
Yes.
they pay me to do stuff. So the value out of having that Powerwall, goes way up, and then using it to charge your vehicles and stuff like that. So then the whole, charging a supercharger for, 30 cents or something like that. So it will drive the cost of all the energy production, energy usage down, because it would, give you more control, that you're your own little utility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, create the thing that we're shooting for. I mean, you and I have spent a lot of time talking about the tremendous amount of draw, or the tremendous amount of energy that's going to be required, not only to run all these electric cars, not only to switch people over to electric heating, to switch over factories to electricity, to governments to electricity, et cetera, et cetera. We have all of these things switching to electricity, but then you've also got the massive, Elon was explaining it the other day, how much more these chips from NVIDIA draw, to where you can only put 2 in a stack, where you normally could put 4, because there's so much heat being generated. So we need all the energy that's going to be able to make those H100s or whatever they are.
Yeah, it'd be H100s. Right. So that was something that Elon said on I think a Twitter space, which was that, he discussed it a bit on the last earnings call, and he gave more details on that thing, where basically he thinks that AI is, large language model, all stuff is for real, provide huge value. The tripling of revenue over the last year for data centers that NVIDIA had experienced, he thinks that's just the beginning. All data centers will go to AI. So you have like your regular chips, plus you have your AI chips. And so then, currently that uses 10% of North American electricity, not counting the Bitcoin blockchain energy, another 10%. Mm-hmm. So that is a significant factor in how much energy we use.
Right.
And if he's saying that's going to go up like 10 times, so then 80% of our energy will be from AI, from data centers, right? And it's not just, we're just increasing this for no value. It's going to be hugely valuable, that you're going to be using this AI stuff. It's like, the enterprise version of the ChatGPT, Andre Karpathy, calls it like the next kind of spreadsheet thing, where it's like it can integrate in everything that people do, right? And will save time, increase our earnings, all that kind of stuff. So there's a reason for that. But for the energy impact, having 10 times more means that we need to have a lot more energy. So let's say the shortage of silicon, shortage of the chips, but there'll be a constant increasing demand. Yes, it will
Right.
adapt and get over and meet that demand, but it'll still be building more of it. And then shortage of transformers for electricity because we're going to be building up the grid. And again, there'll be an adjustment period where we match the annual rate or monthly rate of what we're adding in, but it'll keep growing. We'll be adjusting to having 10 times more that we're adding in. Just like China from 1970s went from almost no power to adding 10 times more than Europe and America combined, right? So then the whole world moves to, we're no longer Europe and United States being steady state, stuck at 4,000 terawatt hours in the United States for 4 decades, right? So we built all this up from 1900 to 1970, and then we stopped and went flat, right? Because we just get from efficiency, we don't need to do more. But now we'll need to do more. Efficiency and doing more. So then we go to this level of 10 times more. So then the master plan estimate of 600,000 megapacks ended up being wrong because you need 6 million megapacks because you're going to be doing it for AI, right? But the abundance of sodium ion batteries means battery-wise, we got it covered. Cheap, plentiful, no demand shortages or anything like that. So a world of abundant energy, a world of abundant compute and AI, not a problem.
Okay.
So the other thing interesting is that, for the whole energy cost of a Tesla bot, which needs 3 kilowatt hours of that. So then if you're looking at $10 per kilowatt hour from a sodium ion pack, $30 for the cost of batteries for your Tesla bot. So how much can you drive the rest of that thing down to it? You could have a $200 Tesla bot, $300 Tesla bot. So just saying, if you get the other cost though, if you get the other cost.
That's right. Well, mass production, having the bots,
mass production, bots building the bots.
Yes, that's right.
And they can do the mining too. Yeah.
Wow. Holy mackerel.
Okay, so that's my thing. Next big future. That's what's going to happen. So, if you anything else, Randy, otherwise we'll do it for next time.
You've changed my thinking. I'll tell you that.
Okay, that's what I like to do. Okay, so thanks everyone for joining us. Like and subscribe. Follow Randy Kirk at his YouTube channel. Follow him on Patreon. Follow me there as well, and follow my website. So thanks for joining me, and see you next time.